So, here we are. I am kind of late for this, but it is officially ending for Bungie, and I'm not really too surprised about their decision, and it does give me more disappointment than I've ever imagined because the leadership over there wasn't very satisfying to me though because um, there were just some things that many were not very impressed, which I completely understood why. And there were just some things that we just didn't truly want. Like, we really wanted to have some things to, you know, make us feel like this is the best game that we never had, like, for years. But now, all that's, it's fading away. So, for my experience, I haven't returned back to the game for like 2 years because I retired back in September 2024, so I was like a 10-year gap for me though, which I was playing Destiny 1 in 2014, a long time ago. I was there, but when it came to this point in the final shape, I already felt like I was already losing interest because the way how Bungie kind of transitioned the timeline, the story trilogy wasn't like it just wasn't very satisfying because I mean if they were gonna transition to the next story, like the next chapter, they could have had something much better in cinematics, but they didn't really do a good job at all, and plus the transition was just not very. It was just very underwhelming, I would say. So I was not very impressed, and quite frankly, a lot of the players that I knew back then, uh, a lot of them didn't even play much after the final shape because it felt like, you know, Endgame. It just felt like that. Like, I know a lot of you will have the same thing, and if it kind of felt like that too, I will admit that. So, there's that part. The thing I was not very impressed was just I think it was just the loot system that was not. Um, I mean, it was kind of sort of above average. Like every loot in the game that we got, like nightfalls, uh, raids, things like that. They're all fine, but the strikes themselves, like not just the nightfall strikes, but more of the the typical Vanguard strikes that we do, though. It didn't feel like um, very entertaining though, because it was just like we are just going in there and we are just completing it though. There wasn't really much value except for just doing these quests that we always do for each season, things like that. Which I'm like, why am I playing this thing when there's really not much value to play strikes? Like, I need something valuable. So that was kind of the disappointing thing about the PV side for the Vanguard. The I think the PV side that I was really disappointed was just the raid experience because there was just so much toxicity back then, and I was like, dude, you know what? I I'm not gonna go with it anymore though, and plus I had to do a tremendous amount of carries back then though with my clan, and I was satisfied to do these carries because obviously these raid players that I was playing with, they didn't give a damn like at all. Like all they cared about was just the loot, which I care about the loot, but it doesn't mean you get to be a total idiot, like having some disrespect for these casuals. So I had a lot of those type of experiences though, and I had to make some arguments about these red players that had so much experience, but they didn't want to teach anyone. So I had to make an argument about that, and I pretty much either bailed out or I'd rather boot them out. That's it. This is just a common sense way of like, you know, it'll go one way or another. I don't care. The thing I really want to touch back to, I did talk about this in my other previous Destiny 2 video, which I didn't. It was just about these changes that would bring back the player base, but it did get a lot of attention, which I was kind of surprised that it got a lot of attention. But anyway, the thing I was about to say is that the one thing that I felt like this completely destroyed everyone, and there's gonna be some other opinions about this, which I'm gonna go back to the Divinity nerf, which it felt like to me though that was just too over exaggerating, because like I understood what the nerf point is, but to me it didn't feel like it was breaking the game. Like let's just be for real, fellas. Like if Divinity was too powerful, there would have been some glitches that would have made it, too OP, things like that. But it didn't feel like that at all. I understand the skill gap things. Like if you had Divinity on your team, though, I truly get it though. It would remove the skill gap, which I understood though. But the thing is that when you have one person using Divinity, yes, you are removing the skill gap, but you're also sacrificing a tremendous amount of damage from the other player. That's one thing that many players didn't really think about this further, and people thought that it was just too damn powerful. But to me, though, it didn't feel too powerful. It was just the tool, though. And the same thing for Trident Cannon. It's also something that you're going to have to make your sacrifices on. If you want something to do a debuff, though, I mean, all you have to do is just do Shotgun Pulse. That's it, though. You can either do, double sniper or even slug shotgun swap, basically. You just do that. But the only thing that you're going to be sacrificing when you're trying to cannon was that, you shoot it once, but you have so much ammo. But the truth is that special weapons are not going to be as highly potent as a power weapon, because if you truly think about it, though, how much do you think a rocket would do? How much do you think a linear fusion would do? Like, it does so much damage. It's actually, like, I don't know, like 4 or 5 times larger damage potency than any other special sniper slug that you ever played with. So, obviously, it's not going to be potent as those power weapons you play with, but at least you're kind of empty on all your special weapons. But the bad side of Trident Cannon is that once you pulse it with the shotgun as a way, you have so much, like, I don't know, maybe 7 or even 14 pieces of ammo that you're not really doing anything with it, though. You're just letting it sit there, be like, oh, I ran out of a debuff. I'll help you guys get another pulsing debuff from Trident Cannon. But after that, though, you're not really going to use it because you're still making a sacrifice on the damage that you're doing, because you're not really using Trident Cannon that much. I mean, you can use it back, but you're not really going to use it that much because it's just there for you if you need to debuff again. And let me go back to Divinity real quick, is that, even if you have someone like, just pulse firing div, and then all of a sudden you have someone with a rocket, I forgot what that perk was called, something it has to deal with the rocket that has a delayed detonation. I think that's what's called. I forgot what that perk was, but anyway, if someone had that though, and if all your routines had, that exact sniper, they'll be like firing, but all of a sudden the crit's gone, and be like, oh snap, everybody lost their crits. So much for the white nail perk, things like that. So much for doing that. And I was like, well, that's the drawback. If someone falls into Divinity, and they're like, oh, sorry, fellas, I gotta pop this rocket out, boom, and then delay detonation, and like, there we go. Now, uh, I got the div back. So obviously, the Divinity was not hurting everyone. It was just not. And I get it though. Even if it was hurting the skill gap though, um, I mean, you still be losing a lot of the damage potential because even though you have five raid players doing the damage with you, but you're just supporting and doing some very small amount of damage. I mean, you still sacrifice like one player out of your equation of the damage. So, to me though, the decision was just very exaggerating to me though. It didn't feel like it didn't have to be done though. And the decision from Bungie, that was that was very very biased in my opinion because like if you guys totally think about it though, like the way how they, you know, made the changes, so that felt very biased from one creator, which I'm not gonna mention at all, and it just wasn't needed to do it all. Like that was like you had to take someone's side though, because that's what it felt like for Bungie. Like they took one creator's side, and that was just not necessary. And I understand like where they were discussing about Divinity was too potent back then, but they just took it too serious from one point of view though. There has to be some other point like perspectives on how you would see on different scenarios. They didn't really look at that part yet at all. I don't believe that Bungie didn't take a look at the other perspectives besides the raid point. But there were no other perspectives like on choices like would you rather use this all the time for nightfalls or dungeons, things like that? Um, I would not use it all the time though. I would not. And if I felt like I don't want to use it anymore, then I'll switch to Trident Cannon if I have to. But if I don't feel like, nah, I don't want to use Trident Cannon, then I will use Night Stalker. Because we have choices. So obviously, the decision from Bungie from one creator, from King's Fall, that was very biased. And they didn't really look at the other perspectives besides the raid perspective. Anyway, now that I got all on my chest about the raid nerf, or not really the raid nerf, well, the Divinity nerf specifically, because that really just kind of hurt the value of the exotic though, because right now though, no one doesn't like doing Garden of Salvation because, you know, it's kind of a bit complex in a certain way, and even if you rate, uh, rate experienced players have done Garden of Salvation, uh, even if you guys done it though, it doesn't mean like you have to say like no, it's not. Like I will tell you guys this though, it is very complex, even though it seems pretty easy to handle. But the way how you coordinate, it's very difficult to do that because everybody has to be on the same page. That's the hardest part. And don't get me started on Spire Stars. That's a whole other bag of beans of its own. That's a whole other subject. I remember that raid. Holy hell, that was painful. But Garden Salvation is a different type of scale on its own. So, yeah, uh, no one didn't want to do Garden Salvation, and pretty much those who were trying to get Divinity, once they first tried it out though and learned about its value though, it already felt too weak for it though. So obviously, the Divinity nerf was very biased. They didn't look at the perspectives of it on different circumstances or different scenarios. So that was just very, very dumb, like utterly dumb in my opinion. Uh, the next thing I do want to touch base on was I think the Crucible though. I would say that part it does feel underwhelming because there was there's so many metas in that game mode that you can obviously think of, but Trials I would say it was kind of sort of above average in my opinion. I mean, there might be some other opinions, but the only thing that kept hurting the value of the game out was obviously the cheaters themselves, which I had to deal with, and I did beat a cheater myself, and it was god awfully painful. And a lot of my friends from PC and console, they like pretty much didn't want to play any more trials. They were so mentally drained out because all the cheaters. And the only thing that what me and my friends did was switch the console. Switch the console gaming and that's it. And the cheaters cannot invade your platform. That was it. That's how we were able to get flawless. But the only reason why um, that we kind of didn't want to switch back to console because I don't remember if the PS5 or Xbox Series X eras were kind of still demanding. I don't remember if that was the case, but I don't think it doesn't matter at this point. But that was the problem with Crucible these days. um, but the last thing I will say about was that the story I will admit it was indeed fascinating. I will admit that, but over time in the long term though, that the storyline coming up to the final shape, it was very awesome. Like this, there's no way I could describe it, but it was actually quite quite a very impressive expansion. I will admit that, but after all of that, like I said from the very beginning, I just lost interest in it because I already had a plan to retire for like kind of around during season of rivals. Be like, okay, I'm probably gonna retire in Lightfall, but I'm like, actually, you know what? Since they're gonna talk about the Light and Darkness saga, I would like stick around and until final shape. That's what I did. And after that, though, I was like, dude, like the way how they describe they're gonna transition, um, I was like, okay, they better make sure that the transition looks pretty good, even though they said it won't be the end. But unfortunately, you guys know what happened. It's what it is. So, and I'm not really upset about the next installment thing, which was D3. I'm not really sad about it. I don't really care about it as much because the leadership, like I said, from Bungie wasn't very. It just wasn't very appealing though. It just felt like they didn't like. I don't want to say like they didn't really care, but I'm gonna have to say anyway because we kept demanding so much changes to make this game better, and we didn't really get that much. We really didn't. We just got some things that, I mean, we got something, but they were just not the things that we asked for. So there's that. We didn't get what we wanted though, and it felt like to me though that, you know, I'm pretty sure that Bungie was afraid of like not upsetting us, but eventually it was gonna come out no matter what. Oh man. Um, I'm not really sad about this point. I'm not really surprised. I'm just very disappointed that you know Bungie wants to go this route though, and there's nothing to bring about to make things better though. And if that's what they want to do, if that's what they want to take this approach on, then so be it. I'll happily leave, even though I already left the game. Obviously, I did, but I'll just like happily say like, you know what, I have my fun times, but right now though, it's time for me to move on from that point, and I'm pretty sure you guys gonna have to move on too. Everyone has to move on. Everyone will adapt. There's gonna be some other games that we can play. There's gonna be some other game genres that we can grind for. There's other games. So even though there won't be a replacement, but there's some other games that are like really fascinating rivals for this game. There are other games. even though not the same type of like science fi genre, but at least it's something for you to be entertained by other developers. So with everything I pointed out so far, uh, I'm not going to be playing the June update because I have no interest in playing the Pantheon 2.0, and even though it's the last thing that Bungie's going to offer, I don't feel like it's going to be worth it because right now, with everything that's currently going on, though, they're not making a new installment, which I have no interest in playing any of Bungie's games, though, even though they were one of the amazing games I ever played, but I just don't feel like I need to support Bungie anymore, though. And I'm not saying like I'm talking like really bad negative about them. It's just that I already did talk about the leadership, which the leadership wasn't very appealing to us though. That we didn't really get the things that we wanted, and I mean we got the things that we wanted, but they were just not the things that we asked for. So that's essentially it. We're gonna have to move on from this point. That's every gamer has to adapt from this point on, even though it's not something that not many didn't want. And I didn't really care what Bungie was gonna do. I really didn't care. Even though I am making a video about this, I'm just saying for what I can speak from my perspective on how I feel about it. So one other thing I do want to come out to say, this is going to be a little off topic, even though this is mainly about the Destiny franchise. For Marathon, though, I don't think it's not going to sustain very well, though, even though there have been negative feedback about it. But to me, though, this is something that not many gamers don't want, and many wanted Bungie to focus on the Destiny franchise. Many of them really wanted to kind of get back on their feet and truly kind of get back to how it was before. It didn't really give us that. They gave us something that we didn't really want, though. We never asked for it, though, even though they're trying to impress us, they're trying to make us happy, but obviously it didn't work out in their favor. So you guys can prove me wrong if it's not gonna, well, if it is gonna, like, stay alive, essentially. Like, it's gonna dominate the entire gaming industry. But to me, though, it's not gonna be the one for Bungie at all. And Sony can prove me wrong on this too. But no one's really gonna bother Marathon at all. Some might for the new season, even though I didn't play it though. I never even play Marathon. But to me, though, that it's not gonna be the successor for Bungie. Or it's not going to be the successor for Sony either. It won't be because this isn't something that we gamers truly want. We want something that will truly be amazing, and we want to tell the developers that we are blown away that you gave us exactly what we need, and that's it. Like, how do you think Destiny was in the first game? How do you think that went out? Like, think about it, fellas. If they could have if they could have done that, then obviously we wouldn't get this far. Like, we wouldn't get this far low. So with all that, I don't really have much to say anything else here besides that with everything going down the hill. No new installment, but Marathon's still trying to go on though, but I don't believe, like I said, it's not going to be the successor for Bungie nor for Sony. Anyway, hopefully you gamers had your fun times together in the Destiny franchise, but it's time to hang our cows for good and move on from a different game. Which the only other game I'm playing is Path of Exile 2 or even The Division 2, which I'm surprised no other Destiny franchise creator is not talking about Division 2. I mean, Division 2 is a whole other type of game subject, but it's a very interesting competitor. It's not sci-fi, but it's a very fascinating game. So I'll be making content about that more. I haven't got a chance to, but hopefully in the future I will show more content about Division 2. So, make the best moments of your life with Pantheon, fellas, and whatever you can do, but that's it. So, we'll see what the gaming developers have in mind for all of us. You fellas, stay frosty out there. I'll see you guys wherever which game will be very fascinating for us to enjoy.